And salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second half, shall we? I got a call yesterday from a subscriber that I interviewed, about a year ago. I didn't recognize the number. I recognized the area code as West Virginia. So I picked up the phone and said hello. And it was the subscriber that I interviewed. We talked for a little bit. And she said, listen, I know that you're going through a lot with your family and stuff, but I have someone that really would like to talk to you. I turned them onto your channel. They worked for the federal government as a park ranger in a federal park in West Virginia. And are you open to that? Absolutely. So we did a three-way, introduced myself to them. They introduced themselves to me. And the subscriber that set it up, she had things to do. So she got off the call, and me and this gentleman, we'll call Guy, had a really in-depth conversation about some interesting and crazy things he has seen at the newest national park in the country, which just happens to be in West Virginia. It's called New River Gorge National Park and Preserve. Now, he had been a park ranger there since like 78, 2 years before or after I was born, up until about 96. Then he went on to still work for the Federal Parks Service, but got out of being a ranger because he was getting older, and he actually kind of wanted to get out of the woods because of the things that he saw. A couple of strange things he had seen. We'll just get into two of them that we talked about. The first one is they had been looking for a mentally handicapped teenager, 17-year-old boy. He was high functioning, but still listed as mentally handicapped. His family had been camping at a campsite off of the New River, and the campsite was called Stone Cliff Campground. There, in this region, there is some old coal mine towns that are now defunct, like just ghost towns. So they at first get called in. They think this young man kind of wandered off. He's, like I said, he was high functioning. So they really think that, maybe he went for a hike on his own. His family at first had said, we know that he is not going to go toward the water. He knows that the New River is dangerous. And he's not a good swimmer, because that was initially the ranger and a couple of other rangers that were on scene. Their initial thought was, did this teenage boy drown? They kind of did a quick scan of the area by New River. They really didn't see any kinds of sign of him being down there. So at this point, they kind of focused on going either towards this coal field that's out there, or there's a abandoned town in the middle, in between Stone Cliff Campground and Big Stony Creek. Now, when I say abandoned town, I don't mean like Centralia, Pennsylvania. I mean this just real small, ramshackety, kind of not even fully housing. Like this is where the coal mine companies threw up some houses, enough to where the workers could take their 12 hours, get some sleep, and then go back to work. But still classified as like a coal mine town. They end up kind of splitting off, and a few volunteers had ended up getting involved. There are paid search and rescue teams out there. An actual, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this, but like there's actual organizations that train specifically for search and rescue. And I've heard, since starting this channel, the majority of anytime I've heard about these units or teams or companies, probably the best word, companies, they are all centered in the Appalachian region, which I find interesting, because that's where we get a lot of dogmen, a lot of just paranormal experiences, and I'd like to sit down with a few of these guys and pick their brains and see what they got going on. But anyway, so they got a couple of these men from the search and rescue. They kind of split up into teams of, there's like six guys each team, 3 teams, and they go looking. A few go towards this coal field, New River coal field. A few go away from the coal field, going towards this Big Stony Creek region. Now, there are a lot of high points in the land, in the topography. So this is not an easy hike. This is not an easy time for these guys. And a few of them are like, if this kid is mentally handicapped, how the hell is he getting through this terrain? One of the park rangers, who was paired off with another one of the units, happens to have a mentally handicapped child, and said, regardless of their capacity to hold and learn information and this and that, their strength is almost immeasurable. Like, they have their own kind of intelligence, but they have a almost superhuman strength many times. So they end up going out and going towards this abandoned kind of coal town. And they end up finding a hip pack, a fanny pack. It's like this lime green color. He said, I never forget. It was like 1980s, 90s lime green, hard to miss, sticking out in the middle of, God's country, Appalachia. They knew they were on the right path. As they are proceeding to go, they're now getting further from New River, further from the campground, closer to this big Stony Creek region. Now, as they're almost to this big Stony Creek area, there's a pole line in a town, probably, would he say, like 10 miles away from New River, if that. There's AT&T Stadium. There's a bunch of other things, but this is just, this small little town is centered in the middle of like deep West Virginia, a place you don't want to get lost in. As they get to this pole line, they start to notice, because now they can see the ground. The ground is more dusty dirt than what they were just in, which would be thick, woods with ground cover, last year's foliage, sticks, this and that. Not your most ideal, you can track it, but not your most ideal thing to go tracking in. They end up meeting one of the other search and rescue teams on this pole line. And this team says, hey, one of the guys says, there's a cave system probably 1/8 of a mile from here. If this kid could walk from that campsite where he came from and down here, and we find his bag, maybe his bag ripped off as he was walking, maybe something scared him, but obviously it looks as if he went towards this cave system. So they end up starting to head out that way. A few of the guys said, we're going to go over to Big Cliff Trail, which runs along New River, and we'll get some supplies brought in. We'll have them come down in, four-wheelers and side-by-sides, anything we might need in case we have to do a rescue. We have to do kind of a cave rescue or whatever. Needless to say, they get almost to this area and they start to find signs of this teenage boy being in this area. It is a really probably 100-year-old coal mining town. There's about 9 houses out there, and nature has reclaimed the area. He said if you've seen Blair Witch 2, in that house that they came upon in the middle of the woods, and you're wondering, well, why the hell is a 2-story house in the middle of the woods that looks like it's fallen down? Chances are that's an old coal mining home, for these small little mines that these companies owned. But there's about 9 of these in there. So they go into this area, and they're calling his name, and guy said, I started to kind of get a weird vibe there. I got a weird vibe that something was telling me that we weren't wanted there, and that possibly, quite possibly, we may need to have some backup. The search and rescue company guys, which are about a 3-to-1 ratio with the park rangers, are not armed. But the federal park rangers are armed with just pistols during this. They're not, thinking they're, going hunting for, they don't think they got to kill a bear or whatever. They are looking for this young boy, a teenage boy. So Guy radios to a few of his coworkers that are bringing supplies down, and said, hey, I don't know what's going on. I've got a bad feeling. See if you can get some stadies down here. Their best bet would be, instead of going from the Stonecliff campground, but come up to us from this region called Thayer campground. Go up, follow New River, follow the cliff, the trail there. And the other rangers are like, hey, we're looking for a teenage boy. What's going on? Did you come across, actually they thought, a few of the guys thought they had came across like a meth lab. They're standing in this abandoned 100-year-old, probably younger, but it's old, it's dilapidated. There's no person is going to live in these houses. It's moss, and the rain and the weather has just really, nature has just reclaimed these houses. But they're still there. They're still places for a person to hide, places for someone to ambush you, and Guy is just real leery. Well, one of the search and rescue guys is going around looking at these houses, yelling in. He comes running to the main team there where the guys are, and says, listen, I don't know if it's the kid or what, but I just saw a person run behind one of these shacks back here. Let's come see, help me find this kid, Why are you guys standing here? The search and rescue guys are kind of put off at how Guy and the other park ranger are acting, because they're they're being leery. Now, the reason why is because they've all seen stuff that these search and rescue guys have not. This is where they work on a daily basis. This is where, they've had to really cut their teeth in this region as being park rangers. Guys now thinking, all right, what the hell? Did we find a meth lab? Let's go. As they're walking over toward where this search and rescue personnel saw what he thought was the teenage boy, a rock comes flying out of the trees and hits one of the search and rescue guys. Just hits him in the side of the head. Slams him on the ground. There's kind of a loud smack noise. He's on the ground. There's blood. Now this has now turned into a first aid possible evac situation. Guy and the other forest ranger have now their service pistols drawn and are pointing in the direction they think the rock came from. Another rock gets thrown from a different angle. Hits another search and rescue guy. But hits him in the leg. So they pull this guy that got hit in the face or head. He had gotten hit in the temple region, the side of his head. And there's a lot of blood. The guy ended up losing his eye after all said and done, being evacuated and brought to the hospital. But they end up pulling back, and where they had been set up prior to, which was almost a better location. They were on higher ground. Because these camps, these mining towns were essentially built right before the mine cave, the mining caves. So they're at a lower, not elevated, but at a lower portion of the ground. So they go up, they have the height advantage. Now they're looking down, but not far, maybe 10 feet, height advantage. So they got the high ground, and they're like, what the hell? They're trying to get the guy that got hit in the face. They're trying to get the blood to stop. They're trying to figure out what is, what threw these rocks. The other guy's got a broken leg. They hear this strange kind of clucking noise. It sounded like a natural cluck noise, but it was human, if that makes any sense. It was almost like someone was mimicking a bird. And then they hear more all around this mining town that they are now looking down at. And guy is like, whoever's down there is communicating with each other. I know for a fact that if the kid is down there, he's dead. And it's not the kid running around this goddamn town clicking and clucking. We need to get our supplies here. We need to get the stadies here. We need to figure out what the hell is going on here. About an hour goes by, And an hour seems like a long time for you or I right here. But for them, it's not, because how they have to, obviously it's going to be a long time for what they're going through, but they already knew it was going to take a while for supplies and for the state police to get there. So they were well aware of how long this was going to take. They end up hearing an ATV motor coming in from the Stone Cliff campground. They can make it out. Then they hear what they believe to be another and another. There's 3 that are coming in. Park rangers, that's it. And 3 statey. All converge. So there's 6 new men there, but these 6 are now armed. Guy explains, hey, this is what, just happened. We got to get this guy out of here. They end up telling one of the search and rescue guys, hey, we're going to send a park ranger with you, get the guy with the broken leg and this guy with his, head smashed in by this rock. Get him the hell out of here. Get up to that campground so you can get out and get these guys to the hospital. As they're getting that, one of the state troopers, I guess, had walked down. When you're doing something, you're not paying attention to everything going on around you. Guy is focused on getting these 2 men out of here and onto the trail and back up to the camp. So then they can get evacuated out of there and get to the hospital. Well, apparently as they're doing this, one of the state troopers starts walking down and he ends up unloading his service pistol at something. Guy doesn't know what happened. They end up, get out of here, go, go, go. They go to the state trooper. What the hell did you shoot? He said, listen, someone just threw a rock at me. It nearly took my head off. I saw something run out into the woods and I shot at them. They threw a rock at me. Life or death situation. As they're now standing there, they hear this clucking noise again, this communication sound. They walk towards where the state trooper had shot, and they find this 5.5 foot man. He's very human-like looking, but not. He was not a Sasquatch. He was, not any kind of Dogman. He was very human-like. His teeth were flat, but there had been, grinding points on his teeth. Otherwise, his teeth probably would have been sharper than ours. They were even the flatter ones appeared larger than ours. In the stature, smaller than us. Smaller than, the typical human being. They had a kind of brow ridge, or this guy had a brow that was sticking out. And sure enough, the trooper had killed him. He was laying dead. Naked. Fully naked. Hairy. Resembled the hair amount resembled closer to a chimpanzee. Guy compared him to the Clint Eastwood movie Any Which Way But Loose. Clyde. He said he resembled him, but you could tell he was more human than monkey. As they're, kicking around, making sure it's dead. And I say it because it isn't it. It's not a human. Even though it's a feral human, it's not human. They end up, one of the park rangers, one of the troopers grab an arm and start dragging it towards the trail system. As they're doing that, this clucking and clicking sound continues, and like Guy said, and said prior, it resembled a bird call, but not. You could tell clearly that it was not a bird, but it was their way of communicating with each other. They're dragging this dead feral body up this hill, going toward the trail, and now you've got Guy, 2 park rangers, and so there's 3 total right there, 4 in total with the one that's dragging, and 5 state troopers looking for this now handicapped teenager. The men that are dragging start screaming, "What the hell is that? What the hell?" This loud, "What the hell is that?" And you hear 2 different firearms shooting, multiple rounds. Everyone's like ceasefire. They end up hauling ass towards where the gunplay just came from. And there's another one of these things. It was coming at the park ranger and the state trooper that were dragging this other feral human up the hill toward the trail, because they wanted to bring it back to where we can get it loaded up and figure out what the hell this thing is. This one got like 30 feet from them and took 9 rounds to the chest. It was like the 8th or 9th round that it finally stopped this thing. So they end up, another supply quad comes. It's got a trailer with rope and everything else it needs. And they throw these 2 feral bodies on the back of this quad trailer. And they're like, what are we going to do? Did these things kill this kid? What the hell are we up against? How many more are there out here? About a half an hour goes by as everyone's trying to figure out what to do, what the next cause and effect is going to be. They get a call over the radio, and the young man has wandered back into the Stone Cliff campground. He had come down, not the way they were. They all went towards their campground, the Bend in New River, instead of going away from that area. So this kid just pretty much came from the opposite direction and is now with his family back at the campground where this search and rescue just it started initially. They get back to the camp. They load these two feral in the back of their pickup, and they head to their main federal park ranger station, and the necessary calls are called in, who to be called if anything is out there. And per guy, that is Department of Homeland Security. That's who they have, a liaison officer that they work with that will address any concerns or needs there. About an hour goes by, and there's a kind of convoy, 3 black SUVs and a tractor trailer. Blacked out tractor trailer, blacked out trailer, and the guys from Guy believes that this whole team was Department of Homeland Security. Gets out. A few of the guys from the second SUV come out. There's no introduction. There's nothing. They look in the back of the pickup and they motion to the other agents, and they are pulled out of the back of the truck and brought into the back of this tractor trailer. Park rangers they're told not to touch them again. We don't need your help. We have this. One of the state troopers had been at his vehicle doing some, paperwork on him discharging his firearm. So he's got his ass covered. As they're loading these feral humans into the back of this tractor trailer, he's like, I don't know how anyone didn't see this trooper, because I could see flat out that he could see inside the goddamn trailer. What that state trooper said was there was a laboratory in the back of that trailer. And those feral human things were loaded in the back, and the SUVs turned around and shot out after saying a couple words to Guy's main superior. And he said, the main park ranger said to everyone, hey, this is what happened. No bullshit. The kid's safe. We don't need to disclose any of this. If necessary paperwork needs to be filled out, Department of Homeland Security or the guys that just left will take care of the 2 search and rescue guys. Their insurance is covered, yada, yada, yada. That's the first issue. Now, he shared that with me for this main experience, this one that really resonated with him, and I will share why. So, long story short, kid's taken care of. They end up saying, hey, what happened to the, one guy that got smashed in the head? The other guy had a compound break in his leg. The bone went through his leg. All medical bills, everything's paid for, everything's covered, done. Like I said, the one guy did lose his eye. 7 years go by, and they are in this region of this cemetery that's in the middle of this state park or federal park, just sitting right in the middle of Gorge National Park. And so apparently this cemetery that's on the other side of New River, there's old railroad tracks out there in a road, 25 2, and or Bury Mountain Road. A motorist had hit something and notified park rangers. They go out, and what was hit, it was mangled. At first looked like a large wolf. As they're now looking at this large wolf, they realize that it does not have paws, but it has hands. The motorist notified the park rangers and then kind of just gone. They gave a fake name, they gave, everything, and they ended up loading this thing up on the back, once again, in their truck and bringing it and making their phone call. Now, per guy, all park ranger services, all park rangers, federal, have a phone number to call when dealing with things along the line as feral humans, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever they run into, they have this number to call. They make a call, and a full day goes by. This thing's in the back of the truck. It's stinking. They ended up putting a tarp over it just so nothing would get in there and eat it or mess around with the carcass or whatever. All of a sudden, this SUV pulls in, and a white cargo van pulls in. They get out, and it is the agent that they had spoken to 6 or 7, 8 years before. And the guy hasn't aged a friggin' day, guy said. He goes, he looked exactly like he looked back then. He said, when you hit a certain age, you do age, and you do notice the age. This guy looked like he had just seen him. There had been no time between. This is where a guy had contacted, the subscriber who put me in contact with Guy notified, she ended up contacting Guy and saying, you've got to hear what Jeff just talked about on his channel about a month ago. And it was the Boy Scout Missouri case where the agents addressed the Boy Scout, and he ended up getting his Eagle Scout. And what did that guy have in common with this guy? But even though Missouri and West Virginia are not the same, they're nowhere close to each other, this agent that didn't age, as they are taking care of this canine creature with hands, and it couldn't have been, he said it couldn't have weighed more than 200 pounds. It was not big. It was as big as the average human. The Department of Homeland Security agent stood with Guy and 2 of the higher park rangers. He had said, this is what we need to do. This is what you need to say. Da 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 da. You've dealt with this shit before. And takes his glasses off and looks at all three guys standing in front of him. And guy said, "Hand to Bible, Jeff." This man's eyes looked just like a snake's eyes. They were demonic looking. And guy kind of thought about everything after everything was said and done and they left. And he thought, am I seeing something? Did I see? And he asks his other two guys, yeah, what the hell was wrong with his eyes? Let's not tell anyone about this until we can figure it out. They don't say anything. They never see this agent again, because after that experience, there had been a couple of smaller little things, and a few other agents had come in. Nothing like this, nothing where they had to pick up anything, but calls that needed to be addressed and stuff. Any of the other agents came, were not wearing sunglasses, didn't have, didn't look like they didn't age for 8 years. So guy still to this day knows what he saw. He was threatened. Everyone, the three guys there were, not threatened like we're going to kill you, but don't say anything. You know what to do. You know how to handle this. This isn't new to you. This is a contract that you guys signed when you started. You were well aware that there's stuff in these woods. You don't need to share anything. And the guy who addressed all this was never seen again. So guy is now long since retired, but he has seen some freaky stuff as working as a park ranger. But the freakiest thing that he's ever seen was the first agent that they dealt with. And they've dealt with him before. He just never took his sunglasses off prior to this. Prior to that large canine being hit. Canine with hands being hit. Everyone that had seen it kind of talked about it for a day or two. Let's just shut up. Let's not say anything. Da 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 da. It's probably best for our own safety. But once again, he's long since retired and doesn't care. But the subscriber who called Guy and said, listen to this, it was an instant flashback for what he went through. And, guys, I encourage you to look at this terrain. He said this area is some of the most beautiful country in the country of the United States, but it's just something is wrong with it. Something is wrong with this land here. And yet the government decided to make this area a public federal park, federal park for the public. People go hiking, people can go rock climbing, people can kayak, they can do all sorts of crap there. And the government knows that these things are out there. But why are they employing these reptilian, is it a scare tactic? What is it? Guys, to me, that's I'd run. I don't know if I would rather run over a dogman or pop a feral person and not see that freaking whoever or whatever. But why is our government employing these things? Why is our government employing reptilian like humanoids? It's scary and it's not cool. And it all leads back, for me, thinking about it all, back to Dulce. The arrangements that were made. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go. And honestly, what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. And until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.